And as they climbed up over this wall, the British artillery guns started opening fire again. But instead of firing on the Boers on the top of the crest of the ridge, they started opening fire on the plateau in front of where the King's Royal Rifles were going over. Bobby Gunning immediately stood up and tried to signal down to the artillery guns to stop firing at them. But the barrage carried on, and a Boer picked or poor old Bobby Gunning off instantly and killed him. Meanwhile, the Dubliners were trying to get up the donga on the side of the hill, and they were also being hit by artillery gunfire. And Private Signaller Finn stood up, exposing himself to danger from the Boers, tried to signal to the artillery guns to stop firing, and eventually had to run down to the guns to ask them what on earth they think they're doing, firing on the British. And Colonel Pickwood, in charge of the artillery guns, said, "But I thought the Boers were there. You chaps all look the same because you wear khaki these days."
That's very interesting, you know. This friendly fire, of course, by the British artillery firing on their own men, created another great consternation for these people, and particularly the King's Royal Rifles suffered very heavily here on this plateau here. And what is interesting also is that at about the same time, General Lucas Meyer decided it's now time for the retreat, because the men had been up all night, they'd been marching on along in the rain, they'd been fighting the whole morning, they had no food, and the ammunition was running low, and moreover from Mpati there was no assistance from General Erasmus. So the best thing now was to push off, because many of the Boers were already leaving on their own. I'm going home. And therefore Meyer ordered the retreat round about the time when the artillery smashed these British to pieces here. And as they left, Meyer left behind a rear guard to keep the British at bay. But as the British had to rush back behind the stone wall because of the artillery coming from their own men, the Boers came back again, and they started shooting down at these British below. And this carried on until about 1:30, when the last of the Boers left the crest and the British were on top. Hierdie is daardie vreeslike stukkie aarde by Talana, waar die Britte soveel ongevalle gelei het. Want nie alleen is hulle deur hulle eie artillerie bestook nie, maar vanaf Talana se kruin, die Utrecht en die Wakkerstroom kommando's, en ook van Lennox Heuwel. En hier het die meeste ongevalle plaasgevind.